Hey, what's up guys? My name's Michael Westbrook. As always, thank you for checking out this video. Here on my channel, I do my very best to read all of your comments and answer questions when I have the time. And I've realized over the last year and a half or so that I've been doing this, that I get more questions about one guitar than any other. And it's this one right here, my Tele. So today we're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to tell you guys some things that I've changed on this guitar since I've gotten it, as well as a few stories around it. All right, let's get into it. This is a 62 American Vintage Reissue Fender Telecaster. They made these from 1999 until 2012, at which point they discontinued them and replaced it with a 64 reissue model that is a Tele with a rosewood fretboard but no body binding that we see on this model. This model came stock with a lot of period correct features, including a 7 1/4 fretboard radius and kind of your standard Tele specs. Now, I've changed a few things on this guitar just to make it suit my needs a little bit more. One of which being a 6-way adjustable bridge that helps me get the intonation on this guitar a little more accurate. I tried compensated bridges on this guitar and it just never was quite close enough for me. So I was able to find this 6-way bridge and it does a trick for me. The other big change on this guitar is something that I get asked about a ton, and it's what pickups are in this guitar. The neck pickup here is a dead giveaway, as it's kind of more of an open thing. It kind of looks like the Porter pickups that I think they're the 9Ts, but these are actually Fralin. They are 5% overwound, which makes them a touch hotter than a stock Tele pickup, but also makes them a little rounder, a little warmer, a little more output. For me, helps it balance with some of my other guitars. And ultimately, that was why I made the change. I love the stock pickups. They sound amazing. But I was typically using my Tele and my Les Paul. I would put both of those in my mono gig bag to go and gig. I did that for years and years. And I found it really tough to switch between the Tele and the Les Paul, and wanted them to pair a little closer tonally. So these pickups allowed me to do that without losing some of the things that I love about the Telecaster sound, but giving me a little more output and taming the highs down a little bit. Now, that being said, I still roll the tone knob back, and I tell anybody who plays Teles or even Stratocasters that this is a huge part in getting great sounds from your Teles and Strats, is use that tone knob. I, for the longest time, always had them all the way up, just kind of by default, but I really realized that using the tone knob to kind of control those highs a little bit, dial them back a little bit, it just helped me dial in the amps better and helped it fit with my other guitars. A lot of times I'm rolling that back, kind of finding the sweet spot and just leaving it there. I don't even touch it. And it just kind of helps me EQ this guitar in a way that sounds best to me. Again, the thing that I've loved about these pickups on this guitar is that it still sounds like a Tele. It's just a little meatier and a little warmer. Another thing that I've done to this guitar is that I've had it refretted. When I got the guitar, it had already been previously refretted with a slightly larger fret size, and so when I had it refretted, I kind of stuck in the same ballpark. The fretboard radius is the same, but just having a little bigger fret wire just makes it a little more playable for me and super comfortable. When I had this guitar refretted, I was super busy. I was in and out on the road a ton, traveling all over the US. And so I had it refretted, and then I took it out on the road and it started buzzing and acting weird. And so I took it back to my guy and was like, hey, you know, what's going on with this guitar? It's kind of being a little cranky with me. And he said that when he did the refret, so when they refret, they take all the frets out and they sand down the fretboard just to, you know, work out any imperfections before they do the refret. And he said there was a high spot in this neck, kind of right here in the middle, this like 5th to 7th to 8th fret. There was a high place here in the neck that he had to sand down so that it was flat all the way down. And basically the conclusion that we came to is that even though he sanded that down, that after the refret, the guitar kind of returned to that. That was kind of where this neck wanted to go. It wanted to, you know, it wanted to do that. It's like almost like it has a life of its own. To solve that problem, we sanded down these frets here in the middle just a little bit, just to kind of maintain that consistency of the level of the frets, because we couldn't do it with the wood. The wood just wouldn't have it. And I think that's kind of interesting to me, that guitars kind of have their own life, and there are some things about certain guitars you can't get it out of them. Now, I don't know if it's because of this or what, but this guitar has not always been my most accurate guitar. That's one reason why I went to the 6-way adjustable bridge. I don't find that I can get away with higher picking parts on this guitar as well. It just doesn't play as in tune to me, or doesn't sound quite right. So this guitar has always kind of served great for rhythm guitar stuff, or even kind of bluesier or country type stuff. It works great for that. But if I need super accurate picking type parts, or really high parts, this isn't usually the guitar I grab for those types of things. That's a little unfortunate, because it is an amazing sounding guitar. But, you know, certain guitars work for certain things. I've talked about it before here on my channel, but I love doubling rhythm parts with this guitar. My Les Paul and this guitar together just work really well for doubling rhythm parts. This has a texture that just pairs really well with the Les Paul. The pickups put it in a similar gain area, but it has a little more chime, a little more brightness, but still is real meaty sounding. This guitar has gotten some age on it. The finishes started cracking, you know, there are imperfections and just everything. I've put, you know, stickers and decorated it years and years ago, and just kind of kept it there. Now, one thing that I do want to point out, and this will be the last thing that I talk about in this video, and it's something that's kind of a more personal note about this guitar, is that on the back here I have this sticker right here, and it's a silhouette. It's a really cheaply made sticker. I think somebody maybe printed it out on their computer or something, but it's a silhouette of a drummer and the initials LT, and that is in remembrance of a friend of mine named Lance Tilton, who was a drummer here in the Atlanta area. Now, Lance was one of the first people that really kind of helped introduce me to the music scene here in Atlanta. We played on something at a church, and he was like, hey, I'm playing with this artist, you should come play with him. And that really kicked off and kind of started my musical career in Atlanta. And so I'm going to be forever grateful to him for that. Several years later, after we had played numerous gigs, him and another friend of mine were on the way home from a gig in Chattanooga to Atlanta, and about an hour into their drive, he fell asleep at the wheel, and they crashed, ran off the road, and he passed away in that accident. Now, obviously that's really impactful for a lot of different reasons, but it also kind of signifies a shift for me, because at that time I was playing so many gigs and driving super late at night. You know, you don't want to pay for a hotel room. You play until 2 in the morning, and then you might drive 2 or 3 hours home. You're getting home in the wee hours of the morning, or at that point, you know, 4 or 5 in the morning, or you're seeing the sunrise as you're pulling into home. And at that point, I made a change in my habits to not do that anymore. It was really dangerous, and that made such an impact on me. And I changed a lot of things about how I saw gigs and how I took gigs, and the gigs that I took just based on how late I was going to be driving. And then in the few times that you still have to drive kind of later at night, you know, always making sure that we had 2 people up and all of that stuff. It's just, you know, stuff that you don't always think about, especially when you're young and you're just, you're trying to play as many gigs as you can, and you're trying to get home without having to pay for a hotel, or even just make it to the next gig. So, you know, that was a big shift point for me, and this guitar always reminds me of Lance and everything that he meant to me, you know, throughout that time in my life. Now, I know you watched this video just to hear a little bit more about this guitar, but I thought I would at least throw that in there as a personal note on this guitar, and also as things open up more now and people are playing more gigs and we're traveling to gigs, just giving you something to think about. Be safe out there, guys. As always, thank you for watching this video, and until next time, I'll see you out there.